everybody. Welcome to Midweek this week. I want to talk to you about this week, hope that can change a culture. One of the kind of strategic priorities of our church, there are four: gospel-centered, neighbor-loving, disciple-making, and culture-shaping. More than a few times, people are like, what does it mean to be culture-shaping? I want to give you a picture of that and then cast maybe a little bit of a vision for us. I want to take you to the year 2011. It's January 25th. It happens to be a day in Egypt. Mubarak is the leader, president. It's brutal. Christians are arrested regularly. Gatherings are infiltrated by military police that come in. It's simply an unsafe place to live as a Christian. And frankly, not just for Christians, it's a lot of people. There was an uprising that came, predominantly from the youth, significantly from believers. And they began to pray, and they began to march, and they began to plead for justice, and all of the things that they saw happening. Well, it was pretty spectacular because by February of that year, if you remember back, Mubarak was replaced. There was a few things that occurred in terms of various places, but it brought a new sense of stability. But behind the scenes, kind of not on the front page of anything, was a group of believers, Coptic Christians, who were gathering and had a vision for a church that would worship God. There's a cave there, and they began to chisel into this cave, and they were making that place ready, of all things, for a sanctuary. The video you're going to see is one where there's 10,000, yes, 10,000 believers in this cave. If you've ever been to Red Rocks Amphitheater in Colorado, it's kind of what it is. It's this beautiful and majestic. I've never been there, can't imagine what it's like, but if you put 10,000 people anywhere, you're going to hear them sing. Where did all that come from? Well, it came from, I believe, prayers of the people of God. God heard their prayers. And this church, every weekend, gathers. And not just there. I had a friend that was there early on, back in 2012 and 13, and actually just went there recently, is a part of kind of developing the framework of the gospel and discipleship in these Coptic churches. I was just really struck. What's culture shaping? It's a group of believers who believe a few things. Number one, they believe that no situation that they face is too big for God. If you go back to Egypt in the year 2008, 2009, 2010, it was brutal. Inflation was through the roof. Brutality was the day, on the street. Justice wasn't being realized by a vast majority of people. But rather than leave or quit or be hopeless, they really believed, interestingly enough, from younger generations, that nothing was too big for God. I think culture shaping is another principle, and that is what you see on the surface is not what is ultimately happening. If you were to go back prior to the revolution when it started and came out public, actually January 25th, 2011, there was a lot of things going on. But one of the things going on were believers all over Egypt and really the world that were praying, God, would you hear our prayers? God, would you overturn this injustice? God, would you bring leaders who are humane? On the surface, what did you see? Horrible leadership, people being arrested, and yes, even many killed. But below the surface was a spiritual uprising that God was bringing. Cultural change believes that God listens to his people, that God hears the cries of his people. Psalmist says, pour out your hearts, O people, to God. He's your rock. He's your salvation. And they believe that when God acts, it's not going to change just a few behaviors. It's going to change a culture. Some of you, probably like myself, don't like everything that you see. Certainly we don't like the inflation. Who likes that? But it's deeper than that. Way deeper than that for me. It's ethics. It's change. It's a ruling recently of a judge overruling parents of a minor girl for her to get an abortion. It's hard for me to imagine. We're living in a country where the rights of parents are not even considered in something of a life and death. I could go on and list scores of others, but I think you have your own list. There's some things that I feel very, very troubled about in our country. It's easy to lose hope. It's easy to lose perspective. I want to learn a lesson from our Coptic believers, brothers and sisters in Egypt. And what are they? Number one, no situation is too big for God. Whatever you and I are facing right now, there are scores of people out there right now, this week, in Pakistan. Our brother Reed Saunders and his organization are meeting. I've had pictures sent to me. I can't share them with you because that would put these people's lives at risk. But I have seen pictures of tents filled with men and women and teens. I just got one today of, I don't know how many. I think they expected 500. Then they thought they were going to get 1,000. I think by the end of the day, 1,500 people packed into this tent. Pakistan. I've been there. It's one of the harshest communities in the world. It's not beyond God's reach. It's not. No place, no situation is beyond God's ability. If we hold on to that, we can always say the best is yet to come. What did our brothers teach us? I trust that God is at work. You turn on the news. There's no good news today. Other than the weather. But the reality is God is at work. God is hearing the prayers of his people. And God listens to the cries of his people. There's no situation that we face is beyond God's ability. And there's more going on, I believe, than what meets the eye. God is at work, and he listens to the cries of his people. And when God moves, it's not just going to touch behavior, it's going to change a culture. I love the video. I hope you enjoy it too. I'm inspired by our brothers and sisters in Egypt. I'm inspired to believe for us, and not just us, Pakistan, Myanmar, Kazakhstan, Taiwan, other places right now that are experiencing some heavy persecution. God is at work there, and he hears the cries of his people. I believe that for Salem. Went home last night, or Monday night after prayer, and you know the 100 plus tents. My heart was broken for them. Came to work this morning. I walked by a guy that had, looked like a kind of a liquid Drano in his hand. I think he drank it. I think that's what he had for breakfast. And his overall disposition kind of mirrored that. You can just open your eyes and see pain and suffering everywhere. And it can get to you to the point where you're like, God, what is the answer? No situation is beyond God's ability. None. And he is doing things, I believe, in our city that we don't even know about. But as we cry out to God, he'll respond to us just like he did to our Coptic brothers and sisters in Egypt. I share this as a hope to us. God, do in our city, like Habakkuk said, do in our day, God, what you've done before. Do in our city what you're doing today in Pakistan. Do in our city what you have done in Egypt. Pray. Ask God. He won't just change some behavior. He'll change the culture of a city. That's what we're longing for. That's part of our strategic priority. And that's what I invite you to pray for. This weekend, we're going to be gathering together. It's the last week in our series, Getting Unstuck. I've had a blast. It has been so fun. So thanks for joining with us. We have a lot of good things coming up. We have communion this weekend. So if you're going to be joining us online, make sure you get yourself ready because I want you to be able to participate with us in that. We have all kinds of things online. Make sure you check it. Hey, did you know that we got a new upgraded website? I mean, man, that thing does everything for you except for cooks your dinner. It is so beautiful. Take a look at it. It's great. There's information. You can send people there. Oh, man, it's endless of the cool things that are on that. So make sure you check our website and come and fellowship with us. Look forward to seeing you soon. I love you.